All right, today we're going to break down a really practical, really powerful tool from cognitive behavioral therapy. It's called the Thought Feeling Behavior Record. Now, that might sound a little clinical, but it's basically a simple technique to help us understand and, hopefully change our automatic reactions to things. So let's grab our mental detective's notebook and get started.
You know the feeling, right? We've all been there. You're just going about your day, and then something happens. Could be tiny, could be huge, and boom. Suddenly your mind is just caught in this loop, this spiral of negativity that just takes over. It can leave you feeling totally anxious, or frustrated, or just defeated. And here's the thing. It's not random. There's a pattern to it. It all starts with a single automatic thought, which then kicks off a really strong feeling. And that feeling, well, that drives us to do something. This whole cascade can happen in a split second. A single negative thought can set off a chain reaction that just completely derails your day. And a lot of the time, we don't even realize it's happening. So the big question is, how do we break this cycle? Well, that's exactly where the CBT Thought Record comes in. I want you to think of it like a detective's notebook, but for your own mind. It's a tool that's specifically designed to help us just press pause, investigate what's really going on in that automatic loop, and start to make more conscious choices. So yeah, the official definition calls it a structured diary, but honestly, let's see it as something way more personal than that. Think of it as a practical tool for self-discovery. This isn't about filling out some form perfectly. It's about you gathering clues to understand the inner workings of your own mind.
So why is this so effective? Well, the real power is in a really simple act, just self-monitoring. See, by writing things down, we take these invisible, lightning-fast thought processes and we make them visible. It slows everything down. It gives us a second to look at the evidence for our thoughts, and this is the most important part. It creates this crucial little bit of space between the trigger and our response. And in that space, that's where we can choose to do something different.
All right, so how do we actually use this thing? Let's get practical. I'm going to walk you through a simple, step-by-step guide so you can become a detective of your own mind. So let's really lean into this idea. Your thought record is your main tool. You're not there to judge your thoughts or beat yourself up about them. Nope. You're just a curious investigator gathering clues about how your mind works. The main clue we're on the hunt for is what's called an automatic thought. These are the things that just pop into your head. They're quick, they're reflexive, and man, they feel 100% true in the moment. That's where their power comes from. They're so fast and so convincing. But as you're about to see, just because something feels true doesn't mean it is true. Okay, this is basically our blueprint. There are 5 key columns in our investigation. First up, you write down the situation, just the facts, what actually happened. Second, you capture the automatic thoughts, what, word for word, went through your mind. Third, you identify your feelings, and this is important, you rate how strong they are. This gives us a baseline. Fourth, you note down the behavior. What did you actually do? And then finally, the 5th column, which is the real game changer, you come up with an alternative thought, a more balanced, more helpful way of looking at things.
Now, theory is one thing, but let's see how this actually works in the real world. We're going to look at 2 super common scenarios to see just how powerful this simple little 5-column record can be.
So, our first scenario is about Sarah, who's trying to stick to a new diet. And this is just a classic example of how that all-or-nothing thinking can totally sabotage our best intentions.
Okay, so let's break this down. The situation is pretty minor, right? Sarah ate 1 biscuit, but just look at that automatic thought. I've totally blown it. I'm a failure. That is not a measured response. That is a catastrophe in her mind. And that thought directly leads to these intense feelings of guilt and frustration, which then drive the behavior, giving up and eating the whole package. See? This shows so clearly how the initial thought, not the biscuit, was the real problem here.
Okay, for our second example, let's look at Alex. This one shows how the thought record is great for social anxiety, where we have this tendency to jump to the worst possible conclusions about other people.
So here, the situation is totally ambiguous. A coworker walked by and didn't say hi. That's it. But Alex's automatic thought immediately slaps this negative, personal meaning onto it. They're mad at me. That triggers intense anxiety and shame, which leads to the behavior of avoiding them and just replaying everything over and over. The thought record just lays it all out, showing how a completely unproven assumption created a whole day of misery.
Now, a really quick but important point. This is a skill. You're not going to be a pro at it overnight. The goal is never to judge yourself for having these automatic thoughts,
The goal is to get curious about them. And trust me, the more you practice, the better you'll get at catching them in the act and choosing a different path.
So after all this detective work, what's the real payoff? What are we actually working towards here? Well, it's about making a really fundamental shift in how we experience our own minds.
And this right here is the transformation. This is what we're aiming for. It's about shifting from an unconscious, rigid, emotion-driven reaction that makes us feel powerless to an aware, flexible, and intentional response that's actually aligned with our values. It's really the difference between being a passenger in your own mind and getting into the driver's seat.
And this gets to the absolute heart of the matter. The goal is not to stop or get rid of negative thoughts. That's an impossible battle, and it's exhausting. The real goal is to change your relationship with them. It's to become an active, curious observer of your own mind. Because when you can just watch a thought go by without automatically believing it's true, you gain the power to choose how you respond.
At the end of the day, you are the world's leading expert on you. This record isn't some magic wand. It's just a tool. It's a structured way to help you access the expertise you already have. It allows you to become your own therapist for these everyday thought patterns that can cause so much pain.
So, I'll just leave you with this question. Think about a pattern in your own life, a recurring reaction you get stuck in. What's the first thought loop you're going to choose to investigate?